Hello and welcome to today's session. I hope you're all well from whichever part of the world you're watching. Today, I'd like to talk about the wellness leaders good enough trap. As I've been preparing to launch the Wellness Asset Academy, I have been interviewing several wellness leaders and also hospitality leaders. And I've really questioned, are we prepared as wellness leaders to take our wellness business to the next level? You know, what we have seen clearly is that wellness is here and wellness is here to stay. There is no doubt that whatever business you go to, whatever industry you go to, wellness is being taken seriously, both from the team's point of view and also our guests, our clients' point of view. And when we look at the hospitality industry, there are many, many conversations happening around wellness, happening around the well-being. And not only at the property level, we're also talking about a community, we're talking about the society, we're talking about our environment. So it's not only property specific. So the topic of wellness and the ultimate goal of well-being is incredibly important. And these discussions are taking place. And the irony of it is that though all these wellness discussions are taking place, very few of these big tables where the decisions are being made, very few of these big tables have a wellness leader present in them. Their property's wellness leader is not present in most of the conversations. And that's ironic because, we are the wellness experts, technically speaking. And yes, one could put on the victim hat and say, they're not making us part of the conversation. But I find what serves us more is why aren't we part of this conversation? How have we contributed to this reality and this current circumstance? And while I was preparing for this video, I was reading through and just looking at the trajectory and also mine, as a wellness leader in this industry for now 22 years. And before that, I did have a past life. And I'm just observing how I have grown, what my trajectory has been, and also my colleagues way back when I was in Goldman Sachs, way back, how their trajectory has changed. And it has been interesting. Not to draw comparisons, but to actually see, okay, how industries evolve. And the many beautiful things about industry. And I truly believe we're living very unique times and we have the opportunity to take both wellness and hospitality to a whole new level that no other industry is capable of doing and have the impact that no other industry is capable of having. And going back to talking about the trajectory of wellness leaders, traditionally, it has been a wellness professional, be it a therapist, a receptionist who has worked up the ranks. They've gone only so far in one property. There's been a crystal ceiling. So they've moved on to another property for a higher position, a higher wage, or finding a new location or getting some pre-opening experience under their belt. And then eventually, 10, 15 years, 20 years later, a few continents under the belt, a few different projects under the belt, a few different brands under the belt. And we reach this kind of, the top of what, we've always known. So you become this global director of wellness, or you become a global director of well-being, or you become a regional wellness director, looking after your spa, many other spas, you're participating in new projects. It's all very exciting. And being at this position is actually good because you finally get a say, you finally make an impact, and you finally see that you're being heard. And that is a very, very good place to be at. However, if we scratch the surface and we go below, we see that even as wellness leaders way up here, if we look at the business unit we are managing, it still barely makes 1 to 3%, if that, of total hotel revenue across the globe. And these wellness leaders who have that when we have that kind of clout, when we have the position, when we have that very good salary for what is considered the wellness industry, if we look at that, we still only make 1 to 3% of total hotel revenue. And you know what? We are still the lowest paid specialist leader in hospitality. Now, if we look at it from a hospitality's colleague's point of view, yes, wellness leaders are perhaps the lowest paid specialist leader. However, if we actually delve into the wellness business, it actually only makes 1 to 3% of the entire portfolio. And though wellness is a complex business, it's relatively new within the hospitality industry and it's still unfamiliar. At the end of the day, there are other businesses within the hotel. Take food and beverage, take rooms. They're incredibly complex businesses. And hence, the leaders actually manage far more people, they're generating far more revenue, and hence they are paid more. It kind of makes sense. Now, we want wellness to be a huge value and revenue contributor. Of course we do. However, I question whether we as wellness leaders, and trust me, I'm putting myself in here. I'm not putting myself in a very different situation. We're all in this together. Are we really and genuinely equipped to manage what is coming to us? Wellness is incredibly lucrative, and wellness is definitely going to skyrocket. The question is whether the current wellness professionals and the current wellness leaders are equipped to manage this huge influx of revenue that will be coming. And I sometimes question whether we are, and I'm not saying it in a negative way at all. It's actually a beautiful thing, and we have a huge opportunity to really upskill ourselves. So today I wanted to really hone in on that good enough trap. And I'd also actually like for you to give me your opinion. You know, this is something I've been pondering on for a while and wondering, I'm like, wow, if we really had to double our revenue, you know, I'm looking at some of our wellness leaders. Are they well equipped to manage that? Yes, we can say our teams, we don't have enough teams, but is our leader able to make that strategic call? I question that and I put myself in there. Trust me, I put myself in the same boat. So, as usual, I have prepared a presentation for you. And I have shared this before, but I think it's incredibly important to share it again. What I call the 4 types of leaders that we have in the wellness industry. And when it comes to creating wellness assets, for example, when I'm saying wellness asset, it's about these wellness operations that are a significant value and revenue contributor to the hotel's entire asset ecosystem. So they're not 1 to 3%, they're not even 5 to 6%, they're going to 30, 40% of revenue contribution. So when it comes to creating wellness assets, I've observed that there are really 4 levels that we'll see wellness leaders operating at. And across these 4 levels, there are 3 critical outcomes. And these are the very same components that comprise a wellness asset that seem to separate the levels. So the first one is proud people. The second, transformative experiences for our guests. And third, stellar performance. Clearly, if we're looking for a sustainable legacy, we need to make business sense. So let's take a look at each of these 4 levels. Sadly, there are too many wellness leaders stuck at the lowest level, the red zone, if you like. And at this level, we tend to see that when it comes to their teams, these leaders find themselves completely ill-equipped to meet the well-being needs and goals of a diverse and multi-generational team. When it comes to their guests, they deliver deeply disappointing experiences because they aren't equipped with the right resources. And finally, when it comes to performance, it is no wonder that their wellness department is bleeding money. You could think of the red zone as the traditionalist zone. This most probably isn't the zone you are in, but we can imagine how being in the traditionalist zone might feel. The thing is, being stuck at this level is sometimes not their fault. Wellness leaders find themselves trapped below the fear and ignorance line. It is like the system is working against them. And what keeps these wellness leaders down here is the limiting thought that wellness is an amenity. These wellness leaders buy into the myth they've been sold that spa and wellness in hotels is the most neglected department. And they buy into this myth through no fault of their own. It is actually the entire way spa and wellness have been treated in hotels that further perpetuates their belief that wellness is the most neglected department of a hotel. But if you challenge that myth and recognize the truth that wellness is actually what sells the hotel, you immediately jump into the next zone, and that is what I call the follower zone. In this next level, we see when it comes to their people that although these leaders aren't completely ill-equipped as the traditionalists, the followers feel like they have this uphill struggle to attract and retain the right talent. When it comes to their guests, although they don't deliver deeply disappointing wellness experiences, the experiences tend to be fragmented. And some reasons why this might be the case is that they have subcontracted parts of the wellness offering to a third-party operator, and they don't have control over the entire wellness experience of their guest. And finally, when it comes to performance, though they aren't hemorrhaging, they're essentially barely breaking even. This is why I think of this level as that of a follower. The follower means that people in this zone tend to be at the mercy of the market. They're sensitive to the shifts and tilts of market changes, and rarely do they exert any control on the business. Now, the key to move through this follower level to the next level up is to shift your thinking from wellness being a necessity to it being an opportunity. So to get to this light green level of innovator and keep moving through it, you need to view wellness as a great opportunity to tap into to today's more wellness conscious traveler. So in this next innovator level, you often see that when it comes to their people, although these innovators perhaps have a good and recognized wellness offering, as well as a hotel and employer brand, they're still barely managing to attract and retain talent. They find themselves stuck in the mindset, in the midst of this talent war to find and retain people. And when it comes to their guests, although the innovators deliver experiences to high standards, the likes of Forbes and LQA, these experiences in the eyes of their guests are only acceptable vanilla. So essentially, what they're really offering in terms of spa and wellness experiences isn't wildly different from the luxury hotel and spa offering next door. They have a few top brands, very good treatments, facilities, and professionals. But you know what? These are all what the guest essentially expects from a top hotel, spa, and wellness facility. And when it comes to performance, although the innovators perhaps have spas that are performing strongly, partly due to a very captive audience, perhaps a good local gym membership, and an average treatment rate that is less than half of the average daily rate of the hotel. At the end of the day, these innovators only have a hopeful ROI. They still don't go above the 3% of total hotel revenue in terms of direct revenue from their wellness related offering, even if the spa and wellness profit and loss is generating a few $1,000,000 a year in total revenue. But in general, being at this innovator zone actually feels pretty good. You have a GM who I mentioned earlier on who loves your work. He or she has given you a seat at that big table and occasionally lets you have a voice. You're achieving, and in some cases, even smashing budget. And you maybe even might be at the top revenue generating. You might be that top revenue generating spa and wellness department in your entire hotel chain. The thing is, though, a funny thing happens when I work with leaders and hotels at this level. These wellness leaders hit what I call the good enough line. And on the good enough line, it's easy to buy into the complacency trap. That trap of we're doing excellent and excellent is good enough. And these wellness leaders buy into the myth that true wellness is key to success. They offer an excellent wellness offering, the latest in everything, all done to very high standards. And they believe that that is the ultimate destination. And today's video was specifically to talk about this good enough trap. And the truth is that I think the good enough trap is what has trapped us. Good enough is not future proof. Very few wellness pioneers have made it across that finishing line. We don't know what else is possible for us. We think that if we reach at this good enough line, we're innovating, we're doing fantastic, we're being taken seriously, that is the top. We can't go any further. And what I want to challenge is that we actually can. Our success and exponential growth happens when we actually go beyond this good enough line. That is the likes of Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, all the people who have dared to go beyond where they currently are, beyond what is possible. Instead of going from 1 to 2, they're going from 0 to 1, something no one or very few people have dared to do, and very few people have done actually well. So what I want to say is that, what I want to offer is that once you understand that what ultimately matters, maybe it's not even true wellness. What if, when we're talking about hospitality, what matters is meaningful connections, is truly and genuinely integrating wellness into hospitality and hospitality into wellness? Everything changes for you, and you move into what I call this dark green zone of visionary. And in this dark green level, I believe the game is entirely different. Here we will see that when it comes to our people, these visionary leaders have unwavering confidence in their ability to not only meet, but to exceed the well-being needs and goals of their diverse and multi-generational team. And when it comes to their guests' moments of truth, the visionaries create experiences that are truly cherishable, and as a result, have a loyal and committed customer base that raves about their wellness experiences, and because they want to, and not because we've asked people we know had a good experience in a hotel to fill out a guest satisfaction form or leave a positive review in TripAdvisor. And lastly, when it comes to performance, their wellness businesses experience exponential growth. And what I want to see is this level of leaders, this level of wellness leaders who never settle, who keep moving through this level and push up to an entirely new paradigm. And in order to do that, we have to view legacy wellness as a legacy. And this is where we can make our genuine, lasting impact that we want to make. And I think many times we get stuck at innovator. Very few of us actually go to the visionary level. And what is going to get us to the next stage, what is going to help us take wellness to the next stage, is actually becoming that visionary leader, breaking past all the way, the traditional way we have done wellness, the traditional way we have managed our wellness offerings. Because, what I wanted to do is let's consider for a moment, right, that we increased the total direct revenue generated from a wellness related offering. We literally doubled it. What if tomorrow I could wave a magic wand and, spread some magic dust onto our hospitality folks, where the GM loves wellness. Our owners love wellness, to put all the resources to promote wellness. The director of sales and marketing is selling wellness. Director of food and beverage and rooms are also selling wellness. The director of finance is giving us all the budget we need to actually go full on. And what happens that from this collective effort, we actually manage to double the contribution of wellness. So we go from 3% of total hotel revenue to 6% of total hotel revenue. Now, what would that look like? And what would that mean for wellness leaders? So let's assume your total hotel annual revenue that includes rooms, food and beverages, wellness, all the other events that we do, and any other minor operating departments was 15 million euros. You currently generate 3% of your total hotel revenue from wellness, and that is 450,000 euros a year. Now imagine if you doubled the revenue, that magic wand, from 3% to 6% directly from your wellness offering. You would go from 450 grand a year to 900 grand in direct revenue generated from your wellness offering. That would actually be 100% growth. That is an increase of 450,000 euros. Now, the question is, are we wellness leaders prepared? Let's imagine all the stars aligned. Let's imagine that magic wand did magic. And we suddenly, 1 year to the next, doubled our revenue. Are our wellness leaders well equipped and skilled enough to manage that exponential growth? The problem is that nothing changes if nothing changes. We've reached this point where we don't think we need to learn more. We don't think we need to upskill ourselves, or we're not thinking about it directly. Wellness will grow exponentially with us or without us. But are we in a position to genuinely manage that growth? Because clearly what got us here, all the tactics that got us here, the 1 to 3% of total hotel revenue, believing we're the most neglected department, being used to be that little mini GM within our complex business, what got us here is not going to get us to that department that has an equal say in terms of revenue and value contribution as rooms, food and beverage, where we are not seeing only 1 or less than 1% of wellness leaders go ahead and become general managers. We are seeing 30%. But to get to that jump, it's not only hospitality's job to recognize us. We really have to be that change. We really have to become that wellness leader, that leader of a business unit that can handle this exponential growth. We have seen that just going from 3% to 6%, doubling our revenue in 1 year, most of us probably wouldn't be able to handle that. And that's not a negative thing. It's a beautiful thing because now we know that wellness is growing and we need to grow. We need to shed our old mindset and actually embrace what is possible. Because you know what? Doing more massages, doing more yoga sessions, or selling more products is not going to cut it. We're going to have to think out of the box. And that is why I designed the Wellness Asset Academy, to equip our wellness leaders to actually tap into their superpowers and take wellness to a whole new level. And that will not happen if we're stuck at good enough. If we're just happy where we are, we're not going to be able to see wellness through to the next level. We're not going to be able to push it to that legacy that we all want to leave behind. And on that wonderful note, I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful day. And, if you are enjoying these videos, you like what I'm sharing, please just hit like or share or comment below. I'd love to know your feedback. And especially on this subject, I'd love to know your thoughts. I think it's important that we actually talk about this subject and we address the elephant in the room, so to speak. So looking forward to your comments and your likes and wishing you all a fantastic day ahead. Take care now.